Why does the same bottle last all day on one person and die in an hour on another? It's you. It's not the fragrance. Your skin is eating fragrance. This is not an expression or an idiom. It's a chemical process, and you're the one feeding it. And summer, right now, is when it's at its worst. These lighter, fresher things you reach for when it's hot, the citruses, the aquatics, the clean linen and cucumber water stuff, these are all built on the most volatile and fastest evaporating molecules in perfumery. Your summer wardrobe bottles are the most delicate fragrances you own, which makes right now a super time to understand what your skin is actually doing to it. Your skin is not a neutral surface. It's a chemistry lab. And if you introduce a fragrance into a chem lab without knowing what's already in the beakers, well, you shouldn't be surprised when the results are volatile. So, I spent my first episode pontificating on why fragrance reviewers lie to you, the longevity claims, projection claims, the entire machinery of overstated performance. But there's another side to that problem, and it also has to do with the person doing the reviewing. They're not a neutral instrument either, and I think almost none of them know what their own skin is doing to the fragrance that they're applying. So come on, let's put on our lab coats and go inside the laboratory. The most significant variable in fragrance performance is not the concentration, the quality of the materials, or the number of sprays. It's your skin and the condition it's in. The primary mechanism, that's called sebum, your skin produces natural oil from your sebaceous glands, and among the other things it does, it also acts as a fixative for fragrance. So when you apply a fragrance to well-oiled skin, the aforementioned volatile aromatic molecules land in a medium that slows down their evaporation rate. The sebum holds them hostage, releasing them much more gradually. This is why people with naturally oilier skin consistently report longer longevity, but because their skin is doing the anchoring work on autopilot. Must be nice. Dry skin, however, it's got no such anchor. The molecules arrive, find nothing to bind to, and poof, evaporate. The fragrance doesn't have a chance to develop, and it doesn't reach the point of projection. In simple terms, it doesn't last. This is the actual mechanism behind skin that eats fragrance. Not a reformulation problem, not a defective bottle, but the simple absence of the fixative layer fragrance needs to perform. So TEWL, T-E-W-L, which is an acronym and stands for trans-epidermal water loss. This compounds this problem. When the skin barrier is compromised, the skin is not just dry in the surface sense, it's actively losing moisture through teeny tiny microscopic cracks in the barrier. A compromised barrier and a dry, lipid-poor surface give fragrance nothing to bind to. So more of it flashes off early and less of it lasts into the dry down. You're not just failing to hold the fragrance, you're potentially losing it faster than the person standing right beside you. Let's get even more into the sciencey stuff. Not all fragrance molecules behave the same way on problematic skin. Understanding which fragrances are most vulnerable tells you something useful about which reviews to weight least. Light, low molecular weight molecules are highly volatile, like the ones I mentioned earlier, the lighter, fresher ones. They evaporate quickly under any conditions, which is why top notes vanish within 30 minutes on virtually every single skin type. The differences between skin types is how quickly they disappear and whether there's enough fixative to anchor what follows. Heavy, high molecular weight molecules, dense resins, ouds, ambers, benzoin, labdanum, these evaporate far more slowly on their own. They also have more affinity for whatever lipids they do find and sit on the surface more readily. So a compromised barrier costs them less. They hold almost regardless of what the skin is doing. The practical consequence: light, transparent fragrances, aquatics, clean musks, soft floral, citrus forward compositions are dramatically more vulnerable to poor skin condition than heavy orientals. A reviewer with dry, high pH skin reviewing a light marine fragrance is encountering the worst possible combination of variables. The review they write you tells you nothing about how the fragrance performs on well-prepared skin. A reviewer with the same skin condition reviewing a dense oud will have a radically different experience because the molecular weight means their skin's condition matters far less. This is also why experienced collectors reliably recommend orientals and resins to people with difficult skin. Not because they prefer the olfactory aesthetic, because the physics is on their side regardless of the skin type. So, healthy skin maintains a pH of approximately 4.5 to 5.5. This slight acidity, the acid mantle, controls the enzymatic activity in the skin's resident bacteria, regulates moisture retention, and determines how fragrance molecules interact with your skin chemistry. Traditional bar soap runs at a pH of 9 to 11. Every wash with a high pH cleanser temporarily strips the acid mantle and pushes your skin alkaline. Fragrance applied to alkaline skin interacts differently with your skin chemistry. Certain aromatic compounds perform very differently in alkaline versus acidic environments. The heart notes you were expecting may not emerge cleanly. The dry down may not materialize as expected. The fragrance may smell sharper, more synthetic, or simply different from the review. This is a chemistry problem created before the fragrance was even applied. The nuance we're stating here, however, healthy skin typically restores its acid mantle within 1 to 2 hours of washing. The pH problem is the most significant when the fragrance is applied immediately after washing, which is exactly what most of us do. Shower, apply fragrance, leave. The skin has no time to recover. The fragrance is being evaluated under battlefield conditions every single morning. And your skin isn't sterile either. It hosts a community of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, as individual to you as a fingerprint, and they do something documented and underappreciated. They turn largely odorless compounds in your sweat into the compounds that make up your personal scent. The smell people recognize as you is, in large part, the work of your bacteria. And every fragrance you apply lands on top of that signature smell, not on a blank surface. How can a perfumer even begin to account for this? Which brings us to the bottle the whole community argues about quite a bit, and I think illustrates this issue. Le Labo Santal 33. On some people, myself and my wife included, it's smooth, smoky, creamy wood. On others, it turns sharp, sour, almost pickled. Same bottle, different skin. And the honest answer as to why is that no one can cleanly separate the causes. The dry, resinous papyrus and the sandalwood materials, your skin and oil pH, and the bacteria signature underneath all of it, interacting in a way that tips sour on some and not on others. It isn't just one mechanism. It's your skin, in total, editing the fragrance in real time. It's not a reformulation problem. It's not a quality control issue. The Labo isn't doing anything wrong, and they cannot fix this for you. And this whole picture shifts over a lifetime. Your microbiome changes. Things like diet, a course of antibiotics, your skincare regimen, and aging. All these factors affect your skin's oil production and skin pH. This is why a fragrance that worked for years can start behaving differently. The canvas has changed. The paint hasn't. So, can you do anything to fix this? Hell yeah, you can. 2 categories. Things you can address, things you can't. The fixable list is longer than most people realize, and I think it warrants your attention. And as a note, I practice all of these, and I can vouch. Moisturizer before fragrance. The goal is to create an artificial sebum layer on skin that isn't producing adequate sebum on its own. Any moisturizer does something. The best approach for fragrance performance is unscented. Adding another fragrance to the substrate creates a competition, and that alters your perception of both. Apply to your pulse points. Apply where you tend to spray, like your neck, and let it absorb for a few minutes. Then apply your fragrance on top. You're providing the anchor your skin is not providing for itself. This is the single most cost-effective intervention and costs essentially nothing. And actually, wait a second. Let's back up a step. I think you should start with hyaluronic acid on a warm, damp skin immediately after getting out of the shower and before you've fully dried. HA draws moisture into the skin and retains it. Holds 1,000 times its own weight in water, actually. And it improves the skin barrier over time and reduces tool. It's a skin health intervention that happens to improve fragrance performance as a downstream consequence. So, get out of the shower, apply it to damp skin, let it absorb, and follow with that moisturizer I mentioned earlier to seal it all in. The sequence matters. HA on damp skin draws moisture in. Moisturizer prevents it evaporating back out. Reversing the sequence reduces the effectiveness of both. And great news, hyaluronic acid is cheap, so no excuses. Now, try a pH balanced cleanser instead of a basic drugstore bar soap for the areas where you apply your fragrance. Syndet bars and most liquid body washes sit at a pH of 4.5 to 6.5. So they clean without stripping the acid mantle. If you're washing with bar soap at a pH of 9 to 11 and then wondering why your fragrance performs differently than the review suggested, you have now identified yet another variable. And for the longer view, try hydrolyzed collagen peptides. Taken as a supplement, they have demonstrated measurable improvement in skin density and moisture retention across several peer-reviewed trials. The mechanism is that they signal the body to upregulate collagen and hyaluronic acid production. This is a skin infrastructure investment with fragrance performance as one of the potential downstream benefits. This is not a fragrance hack. The timeline's long, 8 to 12 weeks to see changes. The investment's modest, however. The effect on your skin is real, and the fragrance payoff is a reasonable bet, but I'll stop short of giving you a guarantee. So, these skincare interventions address dehydration and improve pH and barrier function over time. They do not change your base skin pH in any lasting structural way, the enzymatic activity of your resident bacteria, or the microbial community that has been co-authoring your fragrance experiences for your entire life. These are fixed biological realities. It's a bummer, but some fragrances are not going to work on your skin. Not because the fragrance is poorly made, not because your skin is defective, but because the specific chemistry of your skin and the specific molecular composition of that fragrance interact in ways that don't produce what the perfumer intended. No amount of moisturizer changes that. The correct response is to accept it, move on, rather than spend more money on the same bottle hoping for a different result. If a fragrance consistently underperforms despite proper preparation, the fragrance is not for your skin. It's not a failure. It's information. And it's also why testing on skin and not a strip, not someone else's wrist, not a review, is the only reliable evaluation method, and why a full day of wear is the minimum meaningful test. The canvas is the variable. You need to know what your canvas does before you judge the painting. So, for the skin that consistently struggles with concentration, one practical lever you can pull: upgrade to an EDP. They typically deliver more aromatic material per spray. However, it also changes the fragrance's character. For genuinely different skin that consumes lighter fragrance regardless of preparation, heavy resins, ouds, benzoin-based compositions are built from molecules physically too large to be absorbed at any meaningful rate. They sit on the surface by virtue of their own mass. The physics works in their favor regardless of skin type. Or one final and even simpler thing to do, just suck it up and reapply. Not everything needs to be a longevity beast. So the bottle is the paint. Your skin is the canvas. You have considerably more control over the canvas than most people realize, and some of that control is as simple as changing what you do in the 10 minutes before you put it on. Every longevity complaint in a review is also potentially a statement about the reviewer's skin, their preparation routine or lack thereof, their washing habits or lack thereof, and the state of their olfactory system at the time of evaluation. Most of those statements are made without any awareness that they're being made. The reviewer is describing their skin's interaction with the fragrance and calling it a review of the fragrance. These are meaningfully different things. The one-star review about longevity that doesn't mention skin type, hair routine, or the respective climate is not a review of the fragrance. It's a review of the reviewer's skin. So file that accordingly. Thanks for watching.